What's going on? 1 second. How about now?
Yes. Okay.
Great.
So, okay, so we are at the slide of your host. I think kind of covered this slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay, good morning all. I'm Christina Jones. I'm a lead procurement specialist with the Norcal PTAC, and I'm here today to talk to you about contracting in the COVID environment. Some of you may have attended our Q&A last month where I actually presented these slides as well. So if you have, just please bear with me, but I'm going to present these again just to kind of, we're still in this same environment and for those, to benefit those who haven't heard. So our first slide is a disclosure that this information is current to the best of our knowledge at the point that we're presenting it today. Next slide. Okay, so it's important to know that the government is still buying, it's still open for business. I'm sure you've actually probably heard that term. The focus has been primarily on essential items, but of course, there are other things that are being procured that are needed post-pandemic or needed possibly in a few months. So you may see also many opportunities out there like that. But via the emergency declaration FAR 18.2, the focus became on getting those essential items like gloves, masks, gowns, shields, and so forth in order to assist with the pandemic. So that meant accelerating procurements by minimizing competition. So you may see some large firms that are have contracts that are minimize competition, are able to get, who are able to provide PPE. And also opportunities, of course, for small business to do the same with minimal competition. So there was increased, the micro purchase threshold was increased from 10 to 20. So where they could simply slide their credit card if they wanted to purchase something from you. And also the simplified acquisition threshold was increased to 750,000. And we're seeing a lot more vehicles, contract vehicles like blanket purchase agreements and use of Ability One in order to quickly, again, accelerate the procurement so that those that they can receive what's needed in this pandemic era as soon as possible. So market research is really important right now. It's always important, to tell you the truth, but it's really important as far as knowing what they are purchasing under COVID-19 if you have supplies. And I'm sure you'll hear more about that from our two panelists. So looking on Federal Procurement Data System, fpds.gov, there is a report, COVID-19 report that is there, and there's also a COVID-19 PSC code where you can track P20C, all acquisitions that, are listed for COVID-19. So you should be aware of what's being purchased by which agencies in order to help drive if you're looking for opportunities in this environment. It's also important to note that small business set-asides are suspended at the moment, and if you are an 8A contractor, you have an 8A, you're in the 8A program, you can request temporary suspension of your 8A for up to 1 year if you're not utilizing the program at the moment. So say for instance, you're in the last year of your program, and you want to retain that time when things return back to normal, you can request for that to be temporarily suspended. HubZone, there's also been some guidance about teleworking. So to make sure that those of you who are HubZone certified, that you can maintain that certification and that 35% requirement of employees working in a HubZone, even if they're teleworking. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, back one more. I think we went 2 slides. Okay. One more. There we go. All right, right there. Okay, so non-essential items are still being purchased, but like I said, the focus is on or the immediate need of those items that help with COVID-19. But if you have submitted a bid or a contract, you may be asked to extend your pricing longer than, say, for instance, the 90 days that you may have been asked in the solicitation to hold the pricing. And there's just also it's important to note that there's not financial relief under this. You're still responsible for whatever you've agreed to on the contract, but there are accommodations being made. And note that it's very important to note that you should document every change that you have to make, and also make sure you get agreement and in writing on what changes the contracting officer has agreed to make, if so, on any solicitations or contracts that you have. And then new procurements, many will be for essential items, like I said, but not all. I've seen several things out there that are soliciting now for a few months from now. Next slide, please. And so these are some things that may happen, may have already happened. If you're on a contract, a request to stop work orders, and if there is some impact to you, you can possibly request for an equitable adjustment. Just know that their federal government has a clause for excusable delays. So force majeure may be like this, which is like an act of God or something, a pandemic, for instance. These are all things that cause changes in the way that we do business with the government. And so if you have clients, important thing, government clients or with any client, I think, is to keep the lines of communication open. Make sure they know if you have a delay, what it is you're doing to rectify it, and that they are in agreement in writing as far as what changes need to be made. Next slide. And this is just a little bit about the state of California for those of you who are in California, whether in our service area or outside of it in California. March 4th, of course, the Governor Newsom proclaimed the state of emergency here. And this is just a little bit about the emergency purchasing that is going on in California. So Mary Jo will review, the resources that we have as far as, how to sign up for, how to get connected as far as resources in California as well. But just kind of going over similar type of a system as the federal government, meaning they're encouraged to use leveraged purchase agreements. So contract vehicles such as CMAS, the California Multiple Award Schedule, statewide MSAs, and cooperative agreements. Multiple quotes are not required, but the departments are still encouraged to use small business DVBE. So I do know of several agencies that are actively seeking those that have those certifications for to provide COVID supplies. And just be familiar with, again, the emergency purchasing guidance that is out there. And I believe that's also on our site. And I believe that next slide, that is it for me. But actually, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Jo, who will go over some of the resources the PTAC has. Mary Jo?
Morning to everybody. James, can you bring up our website really quick? What I wanted to do was, for those of you, especially those of you who are not familiar with our website, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time with our speakers. But I just wanted to show it to you, and if you can kind of scroll down. We take you from getting ready to get a contract all the way to being successful with it. Okay, and what we do, so we have plenty of events, we have workshops, we have announcements. Anytime that we know of something that's coming up, we'll put that out for you, especially related to the COVID opportunities that are coming up. Okay, you go just a little bit more. And then we have a calendar. I'm not going to ask James to go to the calendar, but just so that you know that everything that you need is here on this website, and you can contact us and we'll be happy to work through this with you, help you to research what opportunities are specific to your industry. And James has already gone over everything that you need to know about registering to meet with us. And there's our wonderful team, and there's Christina, and we're all here to help you. So thank you very much. And James, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. Oh, perfect. There is a COVID-19 resources for government contractors. It's an excellent. Okay, and here's a list of the resources and different opportunities that we have, both with the state, with FEMA, with the Veterans Affairs, with everybody. So we keep this up to date and current so that you'll know. It's got our webinars, it's got everything here. Thank you so much, James, and I'll let you go.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and now we're going to hand things over to Demetria Carter from FEMA. So thank you so much, Demetria. If you can start your video and unmute yourself. Looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Good morning. I am Demetria Carter. I am one of the regional contracting officers, and I mainly support the disaster side of contracting for our region. We are located in Oakland, California. Next slide, please. So where do you fit in? There are 3 phases of disaster contracting that take place. The response is the first 30 days. The recovery is the next 30 days, which we're coming out of that recovery phase, going into the beyond 90 days, which is a long-term recovery. There are contracting opportunities in each one of these phases. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, give me just a moment here. On April the 28th, the White House Task Force, the DOD, and the HHS agreed that DOD would assume responsibility to procure the urgent PPE items in response to the COVID on behalf of HHS. As a result of that, FEMA has ceased providing procurement support to HHS, and the acquisition was turned over to DOD. So FEMA had a solicitation out there that has now been withdrawn. And it has been withdrawn. So there was contracts that were awarded off of it. People may have responded to it. There will be no more notices or correspondence or communication regarding this. There is another offer that DLL has out there that you can consider. It's an RFI that is posted on datasam.gov. That is the reference number. When you go in there, you can search it. And the categories they're still looking for are the gloves, the aprons, the masks, the shields, the hand sanitizer, all the same things in the swabs. Next slide, please. So FEMA will continue to procure PPE for the FEMA use only. So we are still procuring the PPE. It's just that we're procuring them only for our FEMA use and our active disasters and FEMA employees. Some of the other top commodities that we are sourcing for are portable hand washing stations, waste bags, the hospital mask, hand sanitizer, and tents, shower bags. This is a list of many things that we are still procuring that I wanted to provide to you guys. Next slide, please.
Demetria, are you still there?
Yes, next slide, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. It looks like you dropped off.
Okay, next slide, please.
Actually, it looks like my Zoom crashed.
Oh, okay.
1 second while I rejoin the Zoom. Can you see that?
Not yet. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Great. And is this the correct slide?
Okay. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Sorry about that.
So okay, that's okay. Finding opportunities with FEMA. We're still seeking local companies for each of our disaster areas. All 4 of our states have an active disaster declared. We also have for the Navajo Nation, the territories, we have the EMs that we are actively pursuing, and also our America Samoa, CNM, Hawaii, all those areas we are still procuring for. And where we are posting, most of our requirements are still on Beta SAM.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that there was a note that I wanted to speak to. When we are doing a search in SAM, a lot of the vendors that are now able to provide us with the PPEs, they are not updating their SAM's record with the NAICS code. So when we do our search and we're putting in, for instance, the 423450 NAICS code for the PPE, your company is not coming up as one of the companies that can provide us with those supplies. So that's just a note that I wanted to make sure that if you are able to provide it, please update your NAICS code. Next slide, please. Here's another opportunity that DHS has out there as well that I wanted to share with you. It is a solicitation. They are accepting proposals all the way through, and we'll be awarding off of it through the year 2020. And I'm providing you with the information of who you need, the email address to contact, which is the COVID-19 CSOP@hq.dhs.gov. Next slide, please. These are other ways you can support the COVID-19 by contacting our DHS industry liaison. If you have any inquiries or if your company has any non-medical goods or services. The other way you can support, if you have medical supplies or equipment that you want to donate, you would go to this location on FEMA.gov/COVID-19 offers, and there's a form you would fill out and put that information in for the donations. If you're a private company and you want to produce a product, you can email the nbeoc@max.gov. And lastly, if you would like to meet with a federal agency regarding your vaccine diagnosis, therapeutic, or other medical devices, then you can go to this location at the medicalcountermeasures.gov. The next slide provides you my contact information. and I will look forward to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Demetria. I appreciate that. And just a note here that we will be providing all of these slides, which will include the email addresses and contact information in there. So you don't need to scramble to write them down if you don't want. All right, and now it's time for Jimmy Smith from the Navy. Mr. Smith, are you there? See if we can get you to turn on your video and unmute yourself. Sorry for the delay here. Let me see if I can find. Hi, Jimmy, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, we can hear you. We can't yet see you.
Yeah, it says that I have to wait for the other participant to drop sync so I can share my screen.
Oh, but I'm sharing from my computer.
Okay.
So if you just enable your video, and I'll move the slides through. If that's all right. I mean, if you'd like
sure,
to share from you. Yeah. All
yeah,
right.
we're good to go. Note says you cannot share your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay. Let me go ahead and make you a co-host. There we go.
All right, awesome. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jimmy Smith. I'm the Director for the Office of Small Business Programs for the Department of the Navy, and we're happy to join this webinar today. And let me tell you right up front, use your PTACs. I love PTACs. I haven't found one that I don't like yet in the course of us trying to do business with small businesses. So they're a resource for you, just like my office is. And I'm going to step through some slides about what the Department of the Navy is doing in the area of small business participation. So let's get on with the slides. Next slide. All right, so as you might expect when working with the Department of Defense, we're going to be strategically aligned to some key guiding documents that are publicly available in an unclassified format. And if you start with the document to the left, our National Defense Strategy, that basically dictates how the Department of Defense is going to behave when it comes to the threats, the counters, and the actions that we're going to take in order to make sure that this Navy and this Department of Defense protects the homeland. There are 3 lines of effort called for in that document: increase lethality, strengthen alliances, and greater performance and affordability. Where you come in strongly is in all 3 of those areas. Small businesses, we found, have done some very, very unique things to help foster all 3 of those things. The next document is the Navy Operations Plan. Again, 3 priorities: people, capabilities, and processes. And I have my own document authored out of my office that focuses on small businesses, but we're also in the neighborhood of developing our people, capability, and processes. So I welcome you to these 3 documents. They're available on the web. The National Defense Strategy does have classified versions that you will not see on the internet, but if you're cleared for that kind of information, you can please request access. So next document, next slide. So in keeping with our levels of effort, lines of effort regarding what we do for small businesses and how we need you involved in our work, I need you to focus in on line of effort number 2 and line of effort number 3. Larger small businesses to create a robust industrial base. That's what I'm charged to do, and I need your help in facilitating that requirement. Level effort number 3, streamline acquisition processes, reduce the risk, foster innovation. Another key tenet of what I'm charged to do in order to lead those efforts forward in order to get you integrated into the work we do. So let you know we're perfectly aligned. We're doing things we need in order to give the warfighter what they need in order to go into harm's way and come back to their families. I will tell you right up front, we support small businesses, but I support the warfighter first. I am not in the business of giving business to industry partners just because it creates money towards your bottom line. We've got warfighters out there who are doing this nation's business, and you have to be there to support them or support those that are supporting them. And that's our first charge of action. As you can see in the bumper sticker on this slide, there are a couple of areas of interest that we have to overcome by way of our contracting and being able to do business with one another. If you're not familiar with CMMC, that's basically your cyber hygiene requirement. Those requirements are coming out fully established this summer. And in order to do business with the Department of Defense, you're going to have your cyber hygiene for your business at a certain level of certification in order to do business with us, because we've seen way too much of our information compromised by adversaries and state actors who can go into your systems, your IT systems, and steal information that we have provided to you in order to build those things you need to build for us. And then magically, they're off producing things that we spend billions and billions of dollars on from a taxpayer standpoint, and they're basically walking through some of our second tier, third tier, fourth tier, and even our primary industry partners to steal that information away. And it's just not fair, and we're not going to allow those things to happen anymore. So highly recommend you look up our cyber maturity model certification process in order to do business with us in the future. Next slide. So just some quick bumper stickers, some stats that I like to show you on what we've been doing in the area of small business across the Navy. Last year, we awarded $16.61 billion to small businesses that served as primes. I don't get any credit for small businesses that serve as subs to primes. The numbers that you see here are when you do business directly with the Department of the Navy. Small disadvantaged businesses, $5.92 billion. Women-owned small businesses, $2.78 billion. HubZone, $1.2 billion, and it goes on and on from there. One of the things that I'm being restricted from doing in the fashion that we used to do in the past is my outreach event. 488 outreach events across the United States and our U.S. territories last year. We're doing webinars now, and I'm getting to save a lot of travel dollars by doing this from my dining room like I'm doing today. So it's different, but we're still managing to get ourselves out there and to get the word out to people who need to hear from us. And lastly, if you haven't heard about Navy Gold Coast, this is an annual event that we have for our industry partners focused on small businesses that we conduct down in San Diego. Last year, we had over 2,000 attendees attend this event, and it's a great opportunity for networking, for industry partners to do some matchmaking with one another, and for you to see government partners and customers there that you can talk to directly and see what those needs are and how to better position yourself for opportunities that are coming from those entities. So we plan on doing it again this year. I've got one more shameless plug about that event later, and then we'll show you those details shortly. Next slide. So let me tell you how the Department of the Navy is organized. And when I say Department of the Navy, I also mean the Marine Corps. First off, my deputy, Ms. Arvis Washington, there is nothing that I can do to get through the course of a day without dealing with my deputy, Ms. Arvis Washington. She is superb, and she makes this machine run as smooth as it possibly can. So big kudos to her and the things that she does to help make this effort go forward. Now let me get to the Navy 10 buying commands. First up, we have Headquarters Marine Corps, Mr. Carlton Hagens. He serves as installations and logistics. If you want to support the Marine Corps, and from an installation, meaning bases, and logistics, those things needed in order to get the Marines the capability they need when they're downrange and supporting training activities. Mr. Carlton is your guy. Next, Marine Corps Systems Command, Mr. Kyle Beagle. This is the warfighting capability that the Marines use going forward into harm's way. Everything from weapons to communications to armor to boots to helmets, gear, clothing, everything that a Marines needs in order to go into harm's way comes out of Marine Corps Systems Command, and Mr. Kyle Beagle is the small business professional there. Next, Ms. Leah Baker, Military Sealift Command. The Navy is probably known for its submarines, its warfighting ships, and its aircraft carriers. We have an entire other fleet that provides capability of bringing supplies, bringing fuel, bringing goods to those vessels when they're out at sea so that they don't have to make port calls as often as they would otherwise be required to do. So chartered ocean-going fleet is where Military Sealift Command is. Next, anything that flies, NavAir. Mr. Shelby Butler is the small business professional there, all things aviation for the Navy. Next, Naval Facilities Command. When we have a base, we need roads built, we need wires run, we need to make that base livable for those that are going to be residing on it. And Ms. Bianca Henderson is a small business professional at NAVFAC. NAVC, Ms. Ann Bannister, everything ships, submarines, and aircraft carriers. We design, build, maintain, sustain, and dispose of those ocean-going platforms. And Ms. Ann Bannister is a small business professional there. Next, Mr. Chris Espenshade, Naval Supply Command. This is when we deal with entities like the Defense Logistics Agency, when we use commodities, paints, adhesives, those things that you use like on a Costco type basis. That's the entity that provides those materials to the fleet. Next, NAVWAR, Mr. Dan DeConzo. He's nearby. He's in San Diego, and he's everything from a computers, communications, intelligence, navigations. That's his area of responsibility as a small business professional there. Next, Ms. Brenda Pickett. Don't have a picture of Ms. Brenda Pickett here, but she is very important and she works for the Office of Naval Research. So small businesses that are interested in getting into science and technology, discovering invention, fighting the next fight, fighting the Navy after next. Something that's going to be developed between 5 and 15 years if you're working on technologies in those arenas, and it can help make game-changing opportunities for our fleet. You need to see Ms. Brenda Pickett. And last but not least, Ms. Thompson. She works for Strategic Systems Programs, and Strategic Systems Programs is the organization that's responsible for the Trident D5 nuclear missile. A great organization. They do small business participation there, but within this one slide, you have every small business professional that's key to buying capability that the Navy and Marine Corps need. So these are the folks you need to see. These are the people who can get you in the door to meet the program managers, to meet the contracting officers, in order for you to build those relationships in order to further your business opportunities. Next slide. I want to quickly get to some metrics. Just to show you how we've been doing over the last several years, as I mentioned earlier, the Navy spent $6.6 billion on small businesses last fiscal year, and that equates to 18.49%. So nearly 20 cents of every dollar the Navy spent, we spent on a prime small business contractor. A lot of effort, a lot of great capability, and we don't mind doing business with small businesses. We actually love it. And if you also look at the chart there, the orange line represents my requirement. And we have exceeded that requirement for several years, as you can tell from that slide. Next slide, please. I'm going to give you a little bit further breakdown in how we look across the various socioeconomic categories. Small disadvantage, again, what we've done in reality is in yellow. and what the requirement is in orange. And we've spent money across service-disabled veteran, HubZone, women-owned, all achieving our metrics and getting that capability we need from those various companies with those socioeconomic designators. Next slide. So our long-range forecast, I'll go ahead and tap it one time, please. Our long-range forecast, I'm going to give you insight into how you can do business with the Department of the Navy, and I'm going to show you all of my cards face up. If you go to our website, if you Google Department of the Navy, Office of Small Business Programs, you will go to our website. I want you to go to the Doing the Business with the Don as a tab, and then I want you to go down to the Long-Range Acquisition Forecast. Next slide, please. One more tap. If you get to that tab on our web page, you will see our long-range forecast. There are 81 Excel spreadsheet pages that make up this document. This is a PDF document, but it's basically across all 10 of those major buying commands. We have laid out contracts that we anticipate awarding, when we're going to award them, the amount of money that we plan on spending on those contract solicitations. These are opportunities for you to see and plan ahead for the work that the Navy envisions on putting out in those timeframes. Now, granted, every now and then the budget or the customer or the program managers or the contracting officers move things around a little bit. So you have to be mindful that this is a living document, but it gives you some very early insight, and you can start to position yourself for opportunities that the Navy has and plans to award in the future. Again, over 80 pages, and I think on the current version of the document that's out there today, only 7 of the 10 major buying commands provided input to those more than 80 pages of Excel spreadsheets of contracts we plan on awarding in the near future. And I think I've seen opportunities go all the way out to the year 2025 on that document. So that's a consolidation of that material. If you go to our website, you can actually go to each of the 10 major buying commands and see their long-range forecast and dive deep into those things that you think you may be interested in and start planning for and furthering those opportunities that you're looking for. Next slide. So I wanted to make this a little specific for California, and I'm currently in Maryland, so I'm all the way across the country. You guys kept saying good morning to everyone at the beginning of the brief, and I was like, it's afternoon. Oh, wait a minute, they're in California. But I wanted to give you a little bit about what the Navy's doing in California, and this is our Northern California view. We currently have $2.37 billion. This is actually FY19 numbers. $2.37 billion awarded to small businesses as prime contractors in that region. And you can see the breakout there, and then towards the bottom of the slide, you can see the areas of interest where we spent a large portion of that money. Those are the big spends for the northern part of California. Next slide. I'm going to show you Southern California. And this number is going to be a bit bigger. Down near San Diego, we have our naval base. A lot of efforts and activities going on there in support of the fleet. And you can see probably spending about 5 times more money down in Southern California from a Navy standpoint, just because that's where we have a key facility supporting the fleet there. But as was mentioned earlier, the government's open, the Department of the Navy is open, and I can tell you from the numbers I have so far this year, we're actually $1.5 billion more spent this year than the past 3 years at the same time on small businesses. So the COVID-19, as severely as it's impacting the world, it's actually providing opportunities for small businesses to step forward and bring capability we need to those who need it. And as I mentioned, $1.5 billion more spent at this time than the previous 3 years. So we're not being harmed in a negative way when it comes to doing business with industry partners who want to do business with us at this very critical time. Okay, next slide. I'm almost done here, folks, and then we can get to the Q&A. Mentor Protege Program. I wanted to bring this program to everyone's attention to let you know that the Department of Defense will spend money on a large industry partner to help a small industry partner get to where they need to be. This teaming agreement needs to be mutually beneficial to both the government and both industry partners in order to work these teaming agreements out. To date, we've administered over 80 mentor protege agreements, and here's a little bit more about it. We, the Department of Defense, will give the large industry partner up to $3 million to partner with you so that you can get yourself in a better position to do business with the Department of Defense. These are some pretty great deals that we're offering here in order to help industry partners align themselves, bring one another along from one helping another out, and oh, by the way, the Department of Defense pays for it. So please, if you have opportunities there, if there's a large industry partner that you can work out a teaming agreement with, present that to the Navy in this particular case, or anyone across the Department of Defense and my sister services. We're entertaining these opportunities, and the program is authorized, and we're moving forward on making those teaming agreements occur. So please look into that. There's plenty of information out on the web about it, but I welcome you to that opportunity to not have it cost your industry, your small business money when you want to do business with the Department of Defense. Next slide. I believe I'm almost done. Okay, this is my shameless plug. 31 August through 2 September, we're planning Navy Gold Coast in San Diego at the Convention Center like we always do around that time of the year. Hopefully we will be free of this COVID-19 pandemic and we can be back amongst one another in person, but we have full-blown efforts working right now to plan and make sure that this effort comes off without a hitch if we're allowed to get back in close proximity to one another. So please stand by and watch for invitations regarding that. Okay, next slide, and I think I'm done after that. Oh, one more. For those industry partners that are working in the area of science and technology, research, development, and discovering invention, I highly encourage you to go visit the Office of Naval Research and go investigate their SBIR and STTR programs. These are great opportunities for Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 awards to be won by your company in order to grow technology, and we will invest in those opportunities to get you where you need to be so that you can provide that capability to the Navy as we need it from a warfighting standpoint or supporting the warfighter. So please, there's opportunity, there's cash for furthering your interest if you're interested in fighting the fight that we're charged to fight. Next slide, and I'm sure that this is my last one. Okay, social media. We're out there, all the social media websites are listed there. Please follow us or tweet us or whatever Facebook is or Instagram. I'm not on social media at all. So please visit us. Folks that work with me have access to all of those tools and can connect with you in that manner to help you go further in your business. But we're getting paid to help small businesses do business with the Navy. So we're your resource, funded by the government, funded by the Department of the Navy. So please use us, and there's no reason why you can't connect to us or go see some of our how-to videos, or in case you didn't know, opportunities. Please visit our website and connect us from a social media standpoint. And with that, I think we can get to the Q&A part.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. I really appreciated that. Let me go through here. Before we open up the Q&A, I'd like to just go over a couple of our upcoming events. Jimmy had a chance to do some shameless plugging, and I will follow suit here. So So let me just go through this list real quick. You can also find this on our website at www.norcalptac.org/calendar. The next webinar we're holding is in 6 days on May 20th. We're going to have a webinar on HubZone, how to get federal contracts with HubZone. If you don't know what that is, it's historically underutilized business zones. Find out if you fall within them, and if you do, how to use that certification. On June 3rd, we're holding another webinar entitled Elevate Your Business with California Multiple Award Schedule. That's CMAS. So that's an important contract vehicle to go over. You can join us for that one. And then on June 24th, we have a webinar about finding contract opportunities with Caltrans. So we've partnered with them for that webinar as well. These should all be of good value to you. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at the phone number or email provided, the banner. And let's transition over to the Q&A. Here are all the contact informations. Yeah, if we could have our panelists turn on their videos and unmute themselves at this time. Here is a summary of who's present. If you didn't get that slide, and just a reminder, these slides and the whole video of this whole presentation will be emailed to everyone within the next day. So if you're worried about getting those, you can set those worries aside. We've got you covered. When you're asking questions, you can enter them into the chat window, select recipient to everyone, and just a word of advice is to keep the question as specific as possible. Imagine that I'm going to read it out, and if you say, what was that? Or, you know, we won't know how to answer your question. So ask a specific detailed question and indicate if you want a panelist to answer it in specific. If you don't know, you can just leave that part off and we'll sort of field it based on the expertise present. There's another way to ask the question. You can also unmute yourself. If you do that, just make sure to be polite and give right away to whoever's already talking, and not to take up too much time, because it can get kind of awkward when you have to cut people off. So that is another way to ask your question. So with no further ado, I will start reading through some of the questions that have already been submitted. And let's go. Elaine Jennings asks, I've submitted 2 bids for meal services, one to FEMA and an RFQ to SF.gov. I haven't heard back from either submission. How do I find out if our submission is under consideration? Do one of you want to handle that? I know FEMA was mentioned there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It depends on the avenue of where it was posted. If it was posted on Beta Sam, then there should be an updated information provided on the award or an update. Otherwise, I would reach out to the contracting officer and ask the question on the status for that. It could be awarded or not, but just to reach back out to that contracting officer to get an update.
All right. Elaine Jennings again asks, my business interruption insurance was denied. Do I have any recourse through FEMA? So that's another one for you, Demetria. Does that register?
I would suggest that she goes to FEMA.gov / I think it's coronavirus, and there are some information that talks about small businesses and the insurance and things like that, and so that's where I would go to get that information.
All right, thanks, Demetria. Someone on an iPhone, is all I know, is asking if any of these agencies that we know of, either Navy or FEMA or anyone else, requires customer service in the way of phone call support. Either of you know if there's opportunities for that in either FEMA or the Navy?
Not that I'm aware of. But go right ahead.
Well, the only thing that we have that when we do post, when we post for local hires or we're looking for that, we go to USA Jobs, but our requirements, when we do have a phone center set up, if it's a contract, then we do post that as well. We have done some contracts with assistance to that. But most times we do use FEMA employees or reservists for that type of procurement.
I'll just say I've seen those types of opportunities, not necessarily with these two agencies, but there are other agencies that do have admin support and have those types of contracts available from time to time.
All right. Thank you, guys. Krishna Prabhachari is asking, I'm not sure this question is going to register, is this the same links for consulting analytics software services? I'm a little worried that's not specific enough. We don't know which link it's referring to, so I'll move on to the next question. Let's see. 1 second. Do you all use, Letitia is asking, do you all use Seaport NextGen?
From a Navy standpoint, the answer is yes. That is our preferred contracting tool for services, and there's some products there. But basically, if you want to do business with the Navy, that's the primary mechanism to do business with you. You need to be on Seaport. If we want to use an activity outside of Seaport, we actually have to get a waiver in order to do that, and those waivers are pretty hard to come by. Great question, though.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thanks, Letitia. H.J. Sullivan is asking, is that $1 billion additional spending in 2020 related to the recovery and reaction to COVID-19 outbreaks on ships, bases, et cetera? Assuming that's going over to you again, Jimmy.
Yes, that's my question. No, that's actually money that we had planned to spend over the course of the year, but we've managed to accelerate those efforts to spend those dollars on the things we need. Outside of COVID, there could be some things within COVID that are in there as well. But the stimulus money that the government, that Congress passed down to the Department of Defense, we have $250 million of that spoken for by the Navy and Marine Corps, and those dollars are still being divided up as to who gets what in order to provide that support. So I'm just talking program dollars that were going to be spent anyway. It's just a matter of they've already been spent on small businesses, and we aren't even anywhere close to having that kind of gain achieved at this point in the year as compared to the past. We're way ahead of schedule, open for business, and executing in a very, very efficient and effective manner. We became agile over whole COVID-19. It's kind of interesting that our agility and our ability to move faster and more efficiently increased dramatically because of this pandemic.
Thank you. Ed Jones is asking, again, another question for Mr. Smith. Do you have a POC for medical contracts for SBs? I own an EMS provider in San Diego, and I'm hoping to provide services to the bases in this area.
Yes, actually the Bureau of Medicine, BUMED is what we call them in the Navy, they actually provide medical services for the Navy. And we also use the Defense Logistics Agency to provide supplies and capabilities that we need there on a much centralized fashion in that regard. So if you would, please make sure I get your contact information and we can set you up with Bureau of Navy Medicine or our points of contact with DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency. Sorry, I'm using my acronyms.
All right, and another question for Mr. Smith. We are, and this is from Krishna Prabha Shari. We are an artificial intelligence and analytics service company. What is the way for us to participate in the mentor protege program? How to initiate this?
Okay, again, the Mentor Protege program is set up for industry partners to get together first with the opportunity and a teaming agreement. You need to set that up first and then make the case to the government where you're best suited from a buyer standpoint of who to target in order to further that teaming agreement through this mentor protege relationship. But we're very much into artificial intelligence. We're exploring and expanding the use of that everywhere we possibly can in order to take people out of the loop and use machines for those purposes. So highly encourage you to pursue that. But the deal, the teaming agreement is an industry partner to industry partner agreement. And then you approach the Department of Defense with the opportunity and how we can help further it. And it needs to be mutually beneficial to all. And if you would, I have folks that work in my office. Ms. Mercedes Thurston actually is our Mentor Protege program manager within the office, and she can help you on a very deliberate and one-on-one kind of fashion. So again, send me an email. I'll connect you to the right person so that we can provide the assistance you're looking for. Thank you.
Thanks. And Salil Prasad has a question here. I'm completely new to this and have never done any contracting with the government. Where do I start? What certifications are needed? I do have an LLC under which I do have a small healthcare business. That might be a good one for Procurement.
I love the PTACs in this particular case, but before the PTACs jump in and save the day, you can go to my website, and we have a 10-step process for how you do business with the federal government. If you follow those 10 steps, you can do business with the federal government. Now let me turn it over to the PTACs because they're the professionals here.
Well, that was a great plug. Definitely for federal business, that's a great opportunity because that's already outlined there. But just learning how to do business with federal, state, local government. Yes, if you could work with your local PTAC, we can start off by researching what you sell. And you mentioned that you have a small healthcare business, but specifically what you sell. And then look at, what's been purchased in the past, what's been purchased recently, and then look at what areas you qualify to be certified in. And so we can assist you from basically from the start to the finish as far as, getting positioned and then moving through contracting. Of course, you're going to be working with professionals, at the actual offices like, Jimmy or Demetria, but we can also support you when there are questions that come up during that process as well after you've contracted and you have questions about FAR. So there's so many things that I can't cover in this one call, but I'll tell you just to sign up for services and also review our website, which has a good list of the resources that we cover in detail that go a little bit more in depth than our initial slide, which covers the 3 basic areas that PTACs cover. Mary Jo, you're nodding. You have something else? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, I said. Very well put.
Okay.
Okay.
Mary Jo agrees. She approves.
All right.
Well done. Well done, Christina.
We're good. We're good.
We're right there.
And of course, we might repeat this again, but if anybody's if you need help with any of this and you're located in our service area, feel free to reach out to me or go to our website and put an application. We'd be very happy to help you. H.J. Sullivan has a question directed towards Jimmy Smith. Never mind, sorry, I think we already got to that one. But we do have another question for Jimmy. Jimmy, you're popular. Daniel Campbell is asking.
The Navy. I love FEMA. I love direct mortality of the FEMA.
Do you purchase wound care products from the parallel market or only authorized resellers?
Yeah, you would have to pursue that line of questioning with our Bureau of Medicine. They would handle those direct inquiries on the products that they're used. Like most things in the Department of Defense, there's an authorized use list, there's an authorized vendor base that we can only pick from. As an example, I can't go out and buy any internet camera that you can purchase from a store. We only have a prescribed list of those capabilities that are allowed for use, and I can imagine in the medical business that's going to be the same. And I think FEMA has the same requirements as well, where it's an authorized use list, not just bring one, bring all.
All right, thank you. Someone's asking, do you have a list of potential mentors that have worked with you in the past?
Yes, we absolutely do. And a lot of the large industry partners, and I mean, I don't want to go specifically into names, but the largest of the largest industry partners make it their business to create these teaming agreements, these mentor-protege programs to help bring along their supplier base. So highly encourage you to reach out to them. They're in business of helping to keep you in business so that you can provide the capability you need to give to them. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, and but we do have a list, and the Air Force will have a list, the Army, but this is strictly within the Department of Defense is where I would be coming from.
All right. B. Giron has a question. I am a SDVOSB, which I believe is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, doing heavy civil construction. I'm looking for a PTAC or a Navy point of contact for assistance in developing construction opportunities in the SF Bay Area. I'm also interested in identifying potential mentor-protege partners that have a presence in the Bay Area.
Well,
okay. No, go right ahead, Christina, because I don't know that we have a Navy base in the Bay Area, but we have naval facilities all along the coast in California. So, but I think this is definitely towards the PTAC here.
okay, I was just going to speak on, the PTAC assisting you with that research to identify those that are doing that work in the Bay Area specifically. We really can't match you either with any mentor proteges, but we can assist you if you actually find a protege, as far as just discussing the kinds of things. If you look at the SBA, for instance, has a template for mentor protege, we can walk you through that. But we can't assist you with actually finding a mentor per se, but we could find out perhaps through research in an agreement in the San Francisco Bay Area. Mary Jo, you have anything to add on that?
No, I agree with you completely. A lot of times what we'll even do is review a mentor-protege agreement before it's sent in, to make sure that it's something that's beneficial to you and also protects you. But we can certainly help, but we definitely can't go out and find a mentor for you.
All right, thank you guys. Tom Wong asks, I own a security company that produces security community trainers that can support security robots, air, fiber, internet, power, and CCTV. Who would I talk to about, and it cuts off. Who would I talk to about that, I guess? Marketing that, I assume.
From the Navy standpoint, we have an office right there in San Diego that handles everything from IT to computers to networks. Dan DeConzo, small business professional in that area, if you're interested in Navy. I'll turn it over for FEMA for further insight into that.
So they own a security company?
Security company that produces security, sorry, not community trainers, communication trainers, they corrected, that can support security robots, air, fiber, internet, power, and CCTV. I think it's implied they're asking what sort of opportunities for contracting are available to them.
Yeah, the industry liaison team is the best source to provide their capability statements and reach out to them, and they can actually meet up with them and let them know. We'll provide them the opportunities that we have for FEMA and DHS. All
right. Thank you, Demetria. GC, is anyone else have anything to put on that? GC is asking, can I reach out to buying commands to point me to the right program manager for the specific service we sell?
Absolutely. That's what they're there for.
Sweet. Nice and direct. Okay. So that's, we have a lull in questions here. Keep entering your questions. I'll get to some of the ones that were submitted ahead of time. We do give priority to the ones that are submitted in real time right now, but I'll get to some of these other ones here. Cynthia Whited is asking, are there any special certifications that are required on initial contracts?
That's very broad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very broad question, and it's going to depend on the nature of the business that you do and services you want to provide. So, but every contract will have those requirements specified in great detail if you want to get that work, and it gives you requirements laid out in the contract or within the RFP that goes out. So we'll dictate that pretty clearly.
Someone here is asking, we are a construction management company. Is anyone buying these services, construction management, specifically safety and inspection, and where do we find these opportunities?
Who's going to take?
Could be a good one for PTAC.
I can jump in from the Navy side again. Naval facilities is exactly where you need to be in that regard. We build stuff, we build roads, runways. Those things are occurring all across the country, and they're happening outside of the country as well, where we need capability stood up or in some cases torn down. So there's a wealth of work that exists. Again, go back to the long range acquisition forecast if you're interested in doing business with the Navy, and you can see all of those opportunities that they see that they're going to be offering in the near future. And like I said, plans all the way out to 2025 are in that document.
I was just going to say that part of what you mentioned, Jimmy, there about forecasts, we would be reviewing forecasts as part of our research. We'd be also just looking at, we have, through PTAC, we subscribe to something called GovSpend. We just pay for this service to review opportunities that are also local to California and cities and states and counties. So depending on where you are, we'd also look at those. If anyone's buying that, we'd look at the federal level and of course at the state. So just identifying what's out there, what's been purchased in the past, and then signing you up for a bid match service so that you can be notified if anything comes up in the future. And then as a PTAC client, we can assist you with that response if you need help with putting together that proposal.
Thanks, Christina. All right. Chad Johnson is asking Mr. Smith, thanks for sharing the small business spending numbers. Does the Navy track Indian incentive program participation as well?
Absolutely. We can break those numbers down even further. We have the 5 socioeconomic categories that we're required to break our metrics down into, and that's what we hold. But there's nothing that stops me from going off and collecting that data as well. And we are doing work in all of those areas, and especially Naval Facilities Command, a great deal of work there with in that particular socioeconomic category.
Great. All right. David Capelli in San Francisco is asking, how can we get one-on-one counseling sessions with FEMA, procurement, and vendor specialists? I think David might be crossing PTAC and FEMA, but we can turn it over to Demetria if there's any sort of one-on-one sessions that FEMA can provide with vendor specialists.
If you can provide me with just contact me directly, and I can go over with you what we offer, what I have here in the regional areas that I cover, and if there's something further that I can point you to with our headquarters, I will put you in contact with our liaison team.
Great. And if you are, I know I've already said this, but if you are located in our service area for Norcal PTAC, you can apply for our services, and we will, as long as you're a small business located in one of those 15 counties, we're going to give you an intro session at least with a procurement specialist. We've got a really helpful team, so go ahead and apply. On that note, someone's asking, I'm located in Ventura County. Will I be able to join PTAC? Yes and no. You won't be able to join Norcal PTAC. We are restricted to our service area, but you will be able to join a PTAC. So if you go into your search browser and then you just type in find a PTAC, you can find your local PTAC, find the one that's closest to you and has a service area that covers Ventura County. All right, let me get to more of the pre-submitted questions here. I have a product to help spread the coronavirus for employers. I want to get the word out. Is there a mentor that can help me with the paperwork? From Bruce Roberts.
Yeah.
What was,
I wouldn't know specifically.
I wasn't really clear on the question quite.
Yeah, me either.
We're wanting to get the word about like where to go with the product that can help the spread of coronavirus in employment.
On one of my slides, there is a point of contact that they can reach out to submit their information so that person can contact them.
We also, PTAC also has that checklist of different opportunities and points of guidance if you do have things like PPE supplies and the other essential response products and services for COVID. So Bruce, you can go ahead and go to our website, check that out, or review the slides from Demetria to find what she's talking about there. All right, here's another question. 1 second. I submitted an RFQ to SF.gov. I think I already read this one. Juan Santana is asking, I'm interested in knowing about potential opportunities for professional services in the digital marketing and language services with FEMA.
So we have a mandatory source that we go through for the languages, and you can you can go to our website, or when a disaster hits and we have something locally that we're needing that requirement for, the best thing to do is just submit to me, email me your contact information, your capability information. I keep a database locally, and then you can I also would put you in touch with the proper person in our headquarters area as well.
Thank you, Demetria. Someone is asking, is there a U.S. Navy POC for Hunters Point Naval Shipyard decommissioning that I can reach out to for civil, construction, demolition, remediation, contracting opportunities?
Yes, that would be Miss Ann Bannister, Naval Sea Systems Command, and we can provide information on email addresses and phone numbers separately from this call. They handle everything regarding ships, submarines, and aircraft carriers, including dismantlement and disposal.
All right. David Perry is asking, what are the opportunities for public affairs and crisis communications, PR, media, messaging, including social media outreach? So if any of you can comment on opportunities for those fields.
I'll give that one to FEMA.
Actually, FEMA has we already have that area within FEMA that we have that, so there's no opportunity in those areas for FEMA.
Anything from PTAC?
Go right ahead.
I can't say specifically that I've seen an opportunity like that. I just had someone actually recently that we set up a bid match the other day, so we'll see what comes through for doing exactly that. But I didn't find anything that was current that was being solicited for that.
All right, thanks, Christina. Thanks, Demetria. Martin Choi is asking, I don't know if this is too general, will DGS and or counties and cities buy COVID-19 PPE? Oh,
yes. There, if the person goes to caleprocure.ca.gov, there's a link right at the top to register for what supplies you can provide, what PPE, what quantities, when you can deliver it, and if you can make multiple, after the original delivery, if you can also, do the same thing again. And then, of course, there's just reaching out to the small business advocates with the state of California to let them know that you have PPE. We had a Q&A last month with 2 reps from the state that are quite active in that, CDCR, the California Department of Rehab, and CHP, California Highway Patrol, and they are actively purchasing. And I do know of some clients who have, after we've conducted research of what they're buying, and they do show pretty recently what they've purchased in PPE, have reached out to the buyers that are listed there, and they went through probably 100 buyers, but they found someone that was interested in purchasing the masks that they have, and that was a pivot for them from what they normally sell. So definitely there are opportunities out there with the state, cities, and counties.
Thank you. Jerome Navarro asks to Ms. Carter, we are a water resources engineering firm specializing in hydraulic modeling and water treatment. What are some typical differences between water projects serviced in-house, i.e. Army Corps of Engineers, versus contracted out? And if contracted, are these services typically reserved for long-term recovery?
Yes, we do contract out right now. When it relates to the disaster, we go to open market to find resources such as your companies, and they are long-term contracts, anywhere from normally 2 years to 4 years. On the other side of that, the other ones, like you said, with the Army Corps of Engineers that we contract through, you can probably sub through those, and we actually have a new compete contract that's getting ready to go in place, and it's going to be for 5 years. But we do the hydraulic modeling on a 2-year to 4-year on the disaster side. But if you're a company that, if you can just reach out to me and send me your company information, I will make sure I keep it in my database so that when I have that requirement, I can go open market to you.
Great. All right, Maria Stoughton. Yeah, there you go.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that would also be a great PTAC counseling session, because there are other agencies out there that would probably use those services that we could sit and research with you.
Thank you. Maria Stoutenbauer asks, I'm a new small woman-owned business specializing in HR and recruiting. Does FEMA or the Navy contract these types of services?
I'll let
For
you go
FEMA,
first, ma'am.
For FEMA, specializing in HR and recruiting, no, we don't have those types of services.
From the Navy standpoint, we do, but I would highly encourage you to look at our long-range acquisition forecast, because each of the 10 major buying commands may have needs or requirements in that arena, and you're just going to have to dig in and do some searching in that regard, because without the requirement, there won't be an opportunity to do the work. But I highly recommend that long-range acquisition forecast that I showed in my presentation on how to get there. Because each one of the 10 buying commands does their own hiring, their own HR in that regard. It's not centrally managed. James, it sounds like you're on mute.
You're on mute?
Okay. How about now?
Yeah.
Good? All right.
Good.
Solomon's asking, I'm a general contractor located in San Francisco, California. What's the first step to do contracts with the Navy? If that's already been covered, feel free to.
No, actually, one of the things that really does matter when you want to do business with the Navy, with the Department of Defense, past performance matters a great deal, that you have done the work that you claim you can do, and you have satisfactory results from the work that you've accomplished, and that's reflected in your CPARs. If you're breaking into the business, highly encourage you to team up with another industry partner to gain some performance, gain some past performance behind you in order to show your value and show that you can contribute to the work being done. One of the things that I mentioned in my brief, it's all about mission first. To have someone come in, spend money, take time to do a job, and that job not come out as correctly as we need it to be, in order for those ships and submarines and aircraft carriers can get back underway and go off and do their mission, to be held up for some reason that's contracted out, that's not a good look. So we're going to be very scrutinizing when it comes to who gets to do business with us. And as I mentioned, past performance means a great deal to us, and being able to demonstrate that.
Great. So we are out of questions right now. So if anybody has any questions that are lingering, go ahead and enter them. And do remember, you can also unmute yourself and ask a question out loud if your fingers are sore or something. I'll just give a little bit of time. Here we go. Letitia's asking, would the Navy sponsor a contractor for a clearance?
In order to do business on some of our contracts, it is required that you have a clearance in order to gain access to that information. And this is one of those chicken and egg kind of conversations where you can't actually get the contract until you have the clearance in order to do the work that's being requested. So the sponsoring the work, those things have to go hand in hand with the contract, and you shouldn't apply to do top secret work if you don't have a top secret clearance already in hand in order to make that happen. But once you have the clearance, you're free run to go pursue opportunities in that arena. But those are harder to come by just getting in, as I mentioned, and having those requirements for your facilities, your personnel. That's a very involved process for people to be screened in order to make sure that they're allowed to have access to information in that regard. It can be done, but it's pretty involved, and it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination.
Someone is asking, do you accept state and local past performance, or does it have to be federal? I'm assuming that's a follow-up question from someone else.
It actually depends on the nature of the business. If you were doing housekeeping services, cleaning services, I don't know why anything that you would do in the commercial industry wouldn't equate over to doing it for the government. But it truly depends on the nature of the business that you're performing in order to see if there's parity on the commercial side equivalent to what's required for the government.
Thank you. Any more questions? This is your chance. Well, you have FEMA and the Navy and the PTAC here. All right. I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. And of course, starting with a huge thanks to Demetria Carter from FEMA and Jimmy Smith from the Navy. We really appreciate you guys partnering with us and joining and dedicating your time. And of course, thanks to Christina Jones and Mary Jo Juarez from our very own PTAC for dedicating your time, but we employ you, so you have to be here. And of course, everyone who joined, thank you. We do this all for you, so we're very happy to have you here. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at info@norcalptac.org. You can also give me a call at 707-826-3916, and it'll be routed to my cell phone. Hopefully I'll pick up. And we will be sending all the video and the slides from today's presentation out to you via email. They'll come from info@norcalptac.org. And don't forget, if you live in our service area, go ahead and apply for our services, and you might even be connected with Christina or Mary Jo. So thanks again, once again, to everyone.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Mary Jo.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ms. Carter.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right, take care.